Welcome to another edition of the Old Cow Report, coming to you live from the beautiful downtown Memorial Tire Factory, what is this now, Fred? This is considered also a museum, isn't it?
It is?
For those who built tires here for 30, 40 years.
I don't know.
And of course, Fred has his own wing here on the fourth floor.
Yeah.
Now, we want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, and of course we know that you have to go through a great sacrifice to find this program and find out when it's on and then to tune in, and we really do appreciate your struggle to keep informed on what's happening in the world via the Cow Report. And of course, the Cow Report's been on now, what, Fred, 20, 30 years, somewhere in that neighborhood?
I thought it was on for about 50 years.
All right, since the advent of TV, we've been on, so we appreciate your continued support. Of course, some of you now, your children and your grandchildren and your grandchildren's children have watched the show, so we really appreciate that. And Fred, you know, from time to time, of course, as usual, Fred, boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Yes.
And we're glad to see you with us tonight. Now, how's everything going down there at the old rubber factory?
I don't know.
Tree factory.
I couldn't.
See you brought one of your specimens with you.
I didn't bring it with me.
Okay.
You put it there just before I came in.
All right. Well, Fred, getting back to the subject at hand now, we've been doing the show for many, many years, and I know Betty sits at home religiously and watches the show. Now, she tuned in tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. I know she even called in last time we were on, didn't she?
Yes.
Well, we really appreciate it. Well, Fred, we finally have spring here. You noticed how beautiful the weather's been all day today?
I think it's winter that we had today.
Yeah, well, it's not as bad as it was up there in the Dakotas.
No.
And in parts of northwestern Minnesota. It was pretty rough over there, Fred. I guess you couldn't even drive a car. If you drove a car over there in Fargo or Minot or one of them cities, you get fined if you got caught driving a car unless it was an emergency. So it was pretty rough over there.
Yes.
People out of electricity and flooded basements and rivers overflowing. And we've been pretty thankful here in River City. We've had two main rivers coming in here, and neither one of them went over their banks yet. So we've been very thankful for that. I want to wish...
the one on Water Street is pretty close to...
Oh, that's just a rumor.
It's going to take over the tennis court.
It's just a rumor. Okay, Fred, well, we had an election last week, and unfortunately we didn't get to have our election eve special like we usually do, but it was a spring election, so hopefully we'll be on the next Monday night before an election so we can talk about the candidates and stuff. But on this election, there was a very important issue on the ballot, Fred, and that was the referendum for or against the building of an arena with public taxpayers' dollars.
Yes.
And did you get out to vote this time?
You bet. I voted against it.
Voted against it. Well, you and what? Several thousand, I think 6,000, 7,000 people voted against it, and a couple thousand voted for it. So it was the people have spoken, Fred. They said you're not going to use taxpayers' money to build an arena. If you want to get some millionaires together and get some other kind of financing together, go ahead and build the biggest palace you want down there on the river, but don't take the taxpayers' money and build something when people are being forced out of their homes because of high taxes.
Yes.
So the people spoke there loud and clear. And one of those people that started a lonely vigil many, many years ago, Fred, to stop the arena, we have on the air with us tonight. We're going to have her talk for just a few minutes. And that's Lorraine Lee. Welcome to the program, Lorraine.
Thank you, Chuck.
Now, many years ago, you started fighting this arena, and it kind of came to fruition here last Tuesday in the elections, and you were vindicated, Lorraine. What did you think about the vote?
I thought it was great. There's a lot more people that would have voted in the election than did, but they were misled. They were told that it wasn't a binding referendum, and they got so angry they didn't care, so they didn't vote on anything. But it is a binding referendum. In fact, it's direct legislation. So they can't use this this money without overturning the referenda that was passed by the people according to what we have gotten from Madison, and we're waiting on some more wording of it. But you know, Chuck, the thing that is so misleading here is all they keep saying is building the arena. That's a piece of cake. That's a piece of cake. 21 million could be handled to build an arena, but that's far from all there is to it. That has nothing to do with the debt service, finishing it inside, and all of the street repair for years upon years, and that the people would have to pay this deficit. So when they come out and say, well, I wouldn't be for the arena, or I voted against it because I didn't want any taxpayers' money spent, well, my friends, taxpayers' money would be spent over and over again, year upon year upon year.
Well, now, Lorraine.
Just going.
Lorraine, you're saying now that the people voted and they said they don't want this. Now, would the city have to put another referendum on a ballot to overturn this referendum?
That's the word we got out of Madison. And,
so they couldn't.
And from our legal search for someone here.
So the city council just couldn't meet their next session and overrule it. They'd have to go back to the people.
Yes, they would. And if they didn't, I think they'd find themselves in court. I'm sure they would find themselves in court. Because this time it wasn't a small organization. STOP was big, STOP was powerful, and STOP spoke. And the people just do not want that. I just don't understand how people like Linda John can ride into our city and tell us we're going to get one way or the other. The people want it. What people? They had a chance to vote, and it was about 7-1 against it.
Well, I guess these people are outsiders or something.
No, I think they're quite a bit insiders.
Yeah, they're the people.
They're just a certain faction of people. But the people voted, and they don't want it. And STOP is not going to disband. We are going to keep it in force, and we're ready, because we will go to court on this one, because it's direct legislation.
Okay, now, Lorraine, you've seen where some of the people have had to go down and almost get on their hands and knees before the city council and beg to not have these special assessments slapped on them. Upwards, some people, $10,000 just for maybe 100, 120 feet of road in front of their house. And some people have said this is literally going to drive me out of my home. You think STOP could put together some kind of a referendum that would roll back that 90% back to when it was 60 or 65%? Could that be done through a referendum?
I would not think so, Chuck, but I'll tell you what I would do. I really would. I would get a task force and get some of the people from each side of town to come to the meetings and see if they can help the city council or come up with something. But because it's just terrible to be assessed that much money, and I think there's a solution. But you gotta spend your money wisely. That's all. And I can't figure out is how angry these people were and put every one of those incumbents right back in again. And now they're more arrogant than ever. That's all you hear out of them. We must be doing a good job. They put us all back in there again. Well, my opponent took PAC money and special interest money and spent about 6 times more than I did. But I wouldn't sell my soul to the company store to take PAC money for anything at all. I did not win the election, and the people have spoken, so I can accept that fine. I've got lots of things I can do.
Well, you're still a political force, Lorraine, and you know sometimes you can get more done outside of being an insider.
Well, that's what they're telling me with all the phone calls I've had.
And you can continue to lead the STOP, and but I think Lorraine, there's people actually going to the city council and begging, don't hit me up with a $10,000 assessment. You're going to drive me out of my home and put me and my family on the street. They're literally saying that, and that city council just snubbing their nose and saying, well, we have to do it this way.
Arrogant now. When they get on television and shows and brag about, getting into politics so they didn't like someone they didn't even know or ever work with, and then go out and give money to candidates to set up. I don't think that's a very good foundation for a president of the city council at all, neither does anyone else. But like I said, I went into it. I told all of you that they would find something, they would do something. We them with their pants down. They didn't like it, and they think that they're vindicating themselves. Well, I don't care that much. I gave 8.5 years of service to my constituents.
Well, Freddie wanted to ask you a question.
I think that Nielsen, Mr. Nielsen, was a teacher, and he got fired for using some he handled one of the students or something, and that's why he got fired. That's why he's not doing it anymore, and he don't mention anything about that. He is a home he's
He's a homeboy.
He takes
He's a
care of the
homeboy,
kids.
yeah, homeboy. Yeah, he's home on the range. Okay, but he's the city council president now.
I know it. But we had nobody really ran against him. The man that ran against him wasn't the greatest.
All right, well,
I don't know either.
how long is that term, Lorraine? 20, 25 years, or how long is he going to be in there now?
2 years.
3?
2, I would imagine. It's at the same time as the district is up for election. Next time now it'll be the at-large.
Well, Lorraine, we called you at home and bothered you. You just got back from the hospital again, so we'll let you go, but we just wanted to get your input on the arena, and
Well, I think that...
as far as you know, it's dead and buried now for a couple of years, huh?
Well, I don't know. I would not think that they would be representing the people, and that's what scares me about my representative when she took all this PAC money. Is she going to be representing us or paying back her debt?
Well, Lorraine, these elections nowadays, this is big time stuff anymore. It isn't ma and pa elections. They're very hard to win anymore. You got to be sophisticated. You got to be able to spend thousands of dollars, put ads in the media every day for weeks on end. You have to have phone banks. You have to have sign committees. I mean, you got to be pretty sophisticated nowadays to win elections. And
Who aren't that bad? I mean,
Well,
you're not going to get anywhere anyway when most of them are from that camp. If they're happy campers, there's a lot of them that aren't.
well, Lorraine, thanks for letting us call you at home and bothering you on this cold Monday night, and we'll keep in touch with you again.
I feel very, very proud of the STOP organization and the people that went out in the cold, cold winter time and did so much for the people. They'll never know just how much money they saved them.
Okay, well, I'm sure they'll be counting their pennies and pinching them, because now they've got to take the money saved there, and they have to pay the special assessments.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks a lot, Lorraine, and you have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Fred. Well, it's tax time as usual, you know, the IRS and all that hoity-toity stuff and all that money and the H&R block and blocking RH and federal, state, and local taxes and all that stuff, Fred. And I know you haven't had to file taxes for many, many years now. So you laugh at April 15th, but there was a time when you had to pay a lot too. And we'll take a call. We have a caller on one of our vast phone bank there, and we'll take them in a minute. And of course, our phone-in number is 839-6261. And for those of you who want to send us any email messages, it's cows@discover-net.net. Before we go any further, Fred, I've got a email message here. It says, "Dear Fred and Chuck, I like your show very much. I wish it was on more than it is. By the way, Fred, my grandma thinks you're cute. Are you single? Signed, Susie." Well,
no, I'm not single.
All right. Well, there you have it, Grandma. Okay, Freddie boy. Since it is tax time, the old IRS is working overtime here, and they've started to single out, and the IRS has started to single out and target politically active churches for special audits. Now, the separation of church and state crowd says we want everything separate. The church can do what they want; they just stay out of government.
Yeah.
Well, what's the government doing coming in there and muscling in on the churches for? Now all of a sudden they want to audit everything. So here's some of the church groups and churches that have been singled out by the IRS for special treatment. And most of it's because of their stand against the Clintonistas. Name of the church organization: the American Life League, Catholic Anti-Abortion Group, Stafford, Virginia. They endorsed the U.S. Taxpayers Party presidential candidate. Endorsement was private choice of the league leader. That was the complaint and the response. So they went after the American Life League, Fred.
Yes.
The IRS did. Here's another one. Church of the Living Waters, Olympia, Washington. GOP congressional candidate spoke at church service. The church response was the church hosts all kinds of people. They don't have to, any politician can go to church and speak anytime, anywhere, any day of the week, Fred. They have just as much right as a politician going to a high school and speaking, or down on the street corner. So that was their response there. Here's another one. The Eagles Landing First Baptist Church, McDonough, Georgia. Pastor mailed letters on church stationery backing a state representative candidate. And he hasn't replied to any inquiries. These groups that I'm listing, though, are the ones that the IRS has singled out for persecution. So we're in the middle of it there. We'll take this call and then get back to that list. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Chuck and Fred, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good
Fine.
evening, sir.
Fine, how are you out there in TV land?
Good. Is this a nationally syndicated program?
Well, we hope so. We've been on the air long enough.
Yeah, you touched on the special assessment policy in the city of Eau Claire.
That's for sure.
The special assessment should be paid out of the general fund. People don't have any control over those tax dollars. Seldom do they have any input as to where they're spent. They should absolutely be spent or paid for out of the general fund.
You know, caller, when I've lived in towns where a city, the entity called a city is made up of streets, police, fire protection, sidewalks, lighting. That's what makes a city. And the city incorporates all them houses and property within their boundaries and then taxes everyone equally to pay for those services: streets, sidewalks, fire protection, police protection. And everyone that owns property and lives within that city equally shares in the responsibility of paying that.
Correct.
Except in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Well, most cities do it.
In Eau Claire, Wisconsin, you get double dipped if you happen to be on a street corner.
That's exactly the point. The townships don't do it. Everything is paid out of the general fund from a township standpoint. But the city of Eau Claire, one of the reasons I think they like to hang on to this policy is, besides the property tax they force people to come up with every year, they also have another source of revenue through special assessment.
Right. And of course, that revenue also can be extended out for 10 years in the way of payments.
That's right.
With interest.
Right.
So the city makes money off those interest payments too. So it's a pretty good little racket they got going there. But what their comeback is, they say, well, we have to do it this way because of the nonprofits and non-taxable churches and other buildings in town that aren't taxed. Well, they can set up a special system where I don't care if you're a church or a NSP or if you're a school or a federal building or whatever. You're going to be inside the city boundaries. You can pay for streets and sidewalks. That isn't hurting that church's beliefs or that Jewish synagogue or that Muslim mosque down there. They can still preach whatever they want to.
Absolutely right.
But they can pay for their fair share of the sidewalks and the streets for that whole city if they're going to be part of the city.
As a point of reference, almost 30% of all property in the city of Eau Claire are owned by non-profit organizations. Therefore, there'd be no property tax.
I know, that's why they're being sheltered, and that's why they claim they have to do this special assessment so that they can specially assess the churches and stuff. But I don't think they would have to do that.
On WAYY this morning, they interviewed Nielsen, and he said he was open to new ideas. One of the ideas he should consider is doing away with that policy, which was established in 1955, revised in 95, up to, 90% now that they're putting against the property owners?
Yeah, that was probably one of them sweetheart deals done in one of them smoke-filled rooms smoking them Cuban cigars.
Yeah, well, could be. But it's wrong, and special assessment assessments should be paid out of the general fund, period.
That's right, a city's a city.
That's right.
When I came to Eau Claire and bought property here and stuff, decided to become part of the city. But I didn't expect to have to pay taxes and then have special taxes put on top of my
That's right.
on top of my yearly taxes that I pay yearly to be part of the city.
Right, it's just another tax. It's an unfair burden on the average property owner.
And so people go in there almost begging on their hands and knees, please don't tax me another $10,000. You're already taking $2,000 a year away from me, and then you want to hit me with a $10,000 assessment on top of that just for 100-foot frontage for a sidewalk?
That's right, well said. That brings up another point. You go in front of the city council, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your breath. They're not going to change the policy. One of those people on the city council ought to have the balls to move ahead with a new policy instead of only reacting to the city staff. The city council's not running the city staff is running it. Things have got to change. The process stinks at City Hall.
Well, maybe we can get a hold of the STOP group
Maybe
and
that's
have them look at a referendum which would toss out that 1995 one that bumped it up to 95, and not only do that, but toss out the 1955 one too.
That's right. That would be a very good idea.
And throw the whole thing out and force it back onto the into the general fund,
Absolutely.
so that everyone in the city pays their fair share year after year.
That's right. It would be a different story if you went down to City Hall and requested special assessments or improvements be done on a road. The staff kind of laughs at you.
Well, yeah, you
Do
can't.
it and they please.
You can't get anything done with your hat in your hand begging. You have to come down there with force like the STOP did and said, no, you're not going to build an arena with the tax dollars.
Right.
We're going to stop you at the ballot box.
That's
And that's
exactly
what they
right.
did.
The person that ran against Nielsen, that's one of the first persons I've ever heard say when they interviewed him on TV. He said, I'm not going to always go along with the staff. That's one of the first confessions I've ever heard of somebody involved in city government that actually stated the truth. Who runs City Hall is the staff and those that can influence the staff. The council sitting there is kind of a joke. You never see a council person introduce any new city ordinance or ideas. It's always a reaction to the staff. The process is wrong. It should change. And maybe you should make that suggestion to Lorraine Lee. She's an activist, I understand. She would be the one to get the job done.
Yeah, I think I'll contact the STOP people and see if we can get them on the show and see if they want to put their machine together and get a referendum going. But that has to be on the next election cycle, and I guess we don't have any elections now for a year.
Yeah.
So
What do you think? Man of great wisdom?
I think you're right there, John.
But you know, I think that would be a binding referendum if you get enough signatures
That's true. I think it would
and
be.
get it on there. And just all it would have to say is do you want to throw out the 1995 and 1955 city code and start from scratch and force the streets to be built out of the general fund?
Sure. That's right.
If it was worded right, I think it would have it. They put some good lawyer boilerplate on it, so they couldn't get around it.
I think it would give the average citizen some pride in home ownership.
Well, I don't think they have pride now. People are trying to figure out ways to bail out of this sinking ship.
That's right. Well, keep up the good work, you guys.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Good night.
Thanks for calling in. Now, there was a very informed citizen of the city.
Yes.
Right? And we need more people like that are thinking on their feet, and they're not just walking around in a daze, in a over-tax burden daze. Like some people just giving up and say, please don't tax me anymore. But if you have to, make it not too much of a burden, would you please? Okay, Fred, we'll take another call here in a minute. First of all, we wanted to get back to our list here. Here's another one, Fred. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of New Orleans got hit by the IRS. They backed the GOP Senate candidate, but it was a personal endorsement of a retired archbishop. Now, an archbishop has a mind, and he can say who he wants to vote for without the IRS coming in there with their iron fist and saying, we're going to check out the whole Archdiocese of New Orleans because you endorsed a Republican. Second Baptist Church, Houston, Texas, endorsed GOP candidates. But these were personal acts by a church member. That was their response, and that shouldn't have instigated a IRS audit. Here's another one. The Second Baptist Church of Lake Jackson, Texas, distributed 1996 GOP campaign materials. And that's an act permitted by the First Amendment. There's nothing wrong with that, Fred.
I know.
Anyone can hand out leaflets. Here's another one. Carter Metropolitan CME Church, Fort Worth, Texas. Endorsed Clinton and other Democrats. They were gone after too by the IRS, and they had no comment on it. Just for endorsing Clinton, the IRS went after them too. I suppose that's kind of one of them zingers they threw in there so people wouldn't say that Clinton's the one that's doing this. All right, here's another one, Freddie. This one's from a Buddhist temple in Hacienda Heights, California. Hosted a Democratic Party fundraiser. Unbeknownst to leaders, fundraiser was merged into a temple event. And then finally, Windsor Village United Methodist Church, Houston, Texas, asked members to vote for Democratic House candidate, didn't make endorsements. In another case, Americans United, the people that sicked the IRS on these groups was the Americans United for Separation of Church and State. They complained to the IRS these groups were doing alleged tax law violations. In another case, Americans United complained to the IRS that Judy Brown, president of the American Life League, a Roman Catholic anti-abortion group in Stafford, Virginia, had improperly endorsed U.S. taxpayers candidate Howard Phillips. It would be against the law to endorse any candidate. We've never done that, says Miss Brown. I endorsed him personally under my own letterhead from my own house. But they went after the whole group. Just
Yes,
because
I
she
know.
stood up and decided to endorse somebody other than the status quo.
She's a good woman, that Judy Brown.
Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
I'd like to comment on the arena. I'd like someone to get a hold of the police chief of La Crosse and see what he seems to think of the Marilyn Manson freak show that was on last week down there. And I'd also like to mention, instead of trying to build an arena, why doesn't Eau Claire put some of that money into repairing the street and possibly hiring some more police and fire protection for Eau Claire?
Well, they're going to put money into fixing the streets, but it's going to be your money. They're going to take your taxes, and then they're going to special assess you to death.
Correct.
As far as Marilyn Manson, what happened down there in La Crosse?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to talk to or have someone contact the Cross Police and find out what they thought of it.
I guess they've had their troubles with some of these rock groups down there with the drugs and the violence and gang violence and stuff that surrounds some of the groups that have been brought into the arena in the La Crosse area. Of course, that's no money maker to write home to mom about either.
Correct.
Oh,
I guess that's all I was curious about. I'll let you go. I know there's a lot of people trying to get through, and we appreciate the time you gave us.
Okay, well, we'll see if somebody calls in with any response to that.
bye now.
Okay, Fred. Congress wants IRS snoops tried. Congress is gearing up to pass legislation that would put criminal teeth into a law that prohibits IRS employees from snooping into taxpayer records. Bills in the House and Senate would provide for prison time and fines for illegal browsing through IRS files. We feel having criminal sanctions will help us convince employees about the seriousness of this kind of infraction, David Mader, the IRS Chief of Administration, said Monday. Senator John Glenn, who's retiring, and House Ways and Means Chairman Bill Archer of Texas are among a growing bipartisan group that supports passage of browsing sanctions by the April 15th tax filing deadline. No one in a position of power at the IRS should be able to browse through personal, private taxpayer information with impunity. And that's what they've done up to this very evening, Fred. I'm sure they're probably digging in your tax records going back to 1936 now after this show. All right. IRS Commissioner Margaret Milner Richardson asked for legislation last month after former IRS employee Richard W. Zabinski won reversal of his 95 conviction on wire fraud and computer fraud charges. A federal appeals court said the government had failed to prove Zabinski, a Ku Klux Klan member, had done anything with the information he collected. Prosecutors charged that Zabinski used his computer terminal at the IRS to look through tax records of fellow white supremacists he suspected of being FBI informants. A Memphis, Tennessee jury acquitted another former IRS employee who had been indicted on charges of improper access to taxpayers' accounts. Well, you know, Fred, the White House goes in there with impunity and digs into the IRS files.
Right.
It gets dirt on the Republicans and goes after them all the time. This isn't nothing new. And I'm glad to see John Glenn, a Democrat, and Bill Archer, a Republican, are joining together calling for sanctions in this area. Glenn disclosed that in 1994, more than 420 IRS employees had received some form of discipline for illegally browsing through tax returns of friends, relatives, and neighbors. Since those revelations, the IRS increased training on privacy and security of tax information, posted warning messages when employees logged on the system, and installed automatic detection systems that monitor employees' activities in the highly sensitive database. IRS spokesman Steve Pyrick said that in 1995, 371 workers received some form of discipline, including 116 serious sanctions for browsing violations. Last year, 233 workers were disciplined, including 127 serious cases. Representative Jennifer Dunn, Republican from Washington, and Senator Paul Coverdell, Republican from Georgia, plan to introduce a more expansive bill. In addition to imposing penalties for snooping, it would criminalize extortion tactics by IRS agents. So an IRS agent digs into your file, gets a little dirt on there, and then goes around and extorts you, Fred. It's like the mafia. Make IRS agents personally liable for their actions, limit audits, and provide a break to taxpayers who make honest math errors. Probably 1 out of 20 people that sends in a tax return has an honest math error on their tax return. Okay, Freddie boy, are you ready there?
Yes.
You better take this call and then you can tell us what you got there. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Marilyn Manson is a freak, and I want to know what you think about it.
I don't know too much about the group. I know they kind of look weird, but
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had time to listen too much to their music.
You should check it out one time. You'd probably like it.
Oh. Okay, did you go to their concert down in La Crosse?
No, not me. I'm not the type.
Oh, would you,
Well, you might, fit into it down there. That little, poke thing around your neck or whatever you got there. What is that, a pop can or what?
Oh, this here is the latest style from California. If you watched the Academy Awards a few weeks ago, everybody that was interviewed was wearing these, and I keep telling you that this it's on the West Coast now, but anything that's popular in California sweeps from the West Coast back towards the East and the Midwest. So by this summer, everybody on the beach will be wearing these. Okay, Freddie, we're going to have to take another call here in a minute, so you got a shorty there.
Yes, I just want to say, that the Long Beach Naval Port in California has been given to the Chinese, who will be coming in with their ships, bringing in, maybe smuggling in, all kinds of things. And I think that Congress should stop that.
Huh. Well, I think...
As a foreign nation who is an enemy of ours, whether Mr. Clinton and Al Gore will admit it.
Okay, well, I'm sure they're looking at that real close, Fred. Okay, we better take another call here, Fred. We have them backed up all the way to Cincinnati tonight. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Doc, Fred, how's it going?
All right.
Yeah, you just said that Marilyn Manson, they kind of dress kind of weird.
Yeah.
Have you looked in the mirror lately? You got a raccoon on your hat, pop can hanging from your ear, automobile parts hanging around your neck. I mean, there's something on your eye there.
Well, thank you.
Well, I just would watch, maybe they look weird, but you should take a pretty good stare in the mirror there.
Well, thank you very much.
But you look normal.
Well, we forgot, too, Fred, to open the meeting of the Loyal Order of the Raccoons. We're almost halfway into the show, Fred.
Yes.
Well, this meeting of the Loyal Order of the Raccoons is now brought to order. Is there any new business?
No new business.
How many members do we have now, Fred?
I think we got 3 or 4.
Well, good. I'm glad to see we're growing. Now, did we ever let Betty in? Or is this the good old boys club?
Well, you put in, what's her name? You put in the gal you had on the phone there, Lorraine Lee.
We didn't even make her smoke a cigar and put her in a headlock and rub
right.
her head either.
No.
We'll have to do that next time somebody joins. We're supposed to do that. Part of the
Yes.
ritual there. Okay, Freddie. There's a new security scanner which shows it all. This comes out of the Associated Press, Fred, from Raleigh, North Carolina. The next generations of weapon detectors is deadly accurate, able to look through clothes to find guns, explosives, and even syringes and drug vials that can be tucked into rolls of fat. About the size of a voting booth, a machine manufactured by Nicolette Imaging Systems of San Diego goes beyond metal detectors to show any solid object. It is being tested at North Carolina's Central Prison and the Federal Courthouse in Los Angeles. It's a very low-level X-ray, Captain Marshall Hudson, a correction officer, said during a demonstration Monday. It's going to show everybody how something is on them, like it's going to show everybody has something on them, keys, ink pen, or whatever. Things you can't identify are things you want to do a more thorough search on. Hudson, who looked at the image of a fellow officer flashed on a video screen, said the $100,000 machine is capable of showing shin bones near the skin and even a person's private parts on the uncloak mode. While police groups are intrigued, civil libertarians are concerned because the same technology is being developed by other manufacturers into a handheld model, which will enable police to detect a weapon hidden under someone's clothing up to 60 feet away, Fred.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be nice? A version could be ready for testing in 18 months and in use in 4 years. It becomes a question of how intrusive they are, said Mark Kappelhoff, legislative counsel for the American Civil Liberties Union, which questions law enforcement's need to view the human anatomy. Of course, the ACLU is going to be against it, Fred, but, you know, that'd be a good thing to have around airports and stuff where people are packing guns or trying to smuggle drugs or whatever.
Right.
The National Rifle Association also was concerned that the machines could hinder the right in some states to carry a concealed weapon. Well, it wouldn't hinder it, Fred. It would just identify people that do have one.
Yes.
And they'd have to be able to produce their license showing that they have the right to carry a concealed weapon. I think right now there are a lot more questions than there are answers, said NRA spokesman Chip Walker. But officials who represent police officers disagreed. Anything that enhances public safety and officer safety, we're for, said Jim Pascoe, executive director of the Fraternal Order of Police. And you know, Fred, they're kind of related to the Loyal Order of the Raccoons. Fraternal Order of the Police, Loyal Order of the Raccoons. Get the connection there?
Yeah.
All right. And that's the Fraternal Order of the Police is the nation's largest police group with 277,000 members. Gerald Ehrenberg, spokesman for the National Association of Chiefs of Police, noted that a police officer is killed every 57 hours in the United States and that 189 cops are assaulted daily. I don't think any police officer in his right mind would say that's an invasion of privacy. Those kind of statistics make the 600,000 sworn officers want everything they can get. So there you have it, Fred.
Yes.
So they're getting to where they'll be able to identify somebody from 60 feet away. Okay, Freddie, what do you got there? You said you had something before we take this call.
Well, I got something here of Jeffersonian rebellion in the West, and this is from The Wanderer, a Catholic paper from St. Paul. And if Americans were a self-governing people, ours would be a different country. There would be a voluntary prayer in the schools, term limits to members of Congress. Pornography would be out, restricted, and there would be legislative limits on abortion rights. The Citadel and VMI would have their all-male cadet corps, and American cities would never have been torn apart by the lunacy of the forced busing for racial balance.
Huh. That's amazing.
That's by Pat.
So what does that mean in
Patrick
layman's
Cannon.
terms?
Well, He opposes those things, and Jefferson did too. And he was one of the finest presidents we had.
Okay, well, let's take this call and see what the caller thinks. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, I watched your show a couple of weeks ago, the first night you had the new desk, and I was very impressed. I thought you fellows have become very professional, and you've got a great sense of humor, and I think your show's got something for everyone.
Well, thank you. And of course, this set was built by the retail sales of Flavin Pop, and of course, if you ever want to buy any, you can get it down there at the corner of Ferry and Menominee Street. That's the national headquarters down there for it. You can buy it by the case, and here it is. Now, Fred,
yes.
have we sang the Flavin Pop jingle lately?
Chuck?
Yes.
I was wondering now, last week I taped your show on Monday afternoon when it was a repeat, but it was actually a repeat of an earlier show, and I'm just wondering, next Monday, which episode of your show is going to be repeated? I've started to tape you because I think you guys have...
Sentimental value?
No, I think you're kind of funny. I think you're kind of like the Red Green Show.
Oh, well, thank you.
With a kind of a political bent.
Well, I will be having this show here on next Monday. We try to take this show and put it on the week we're not on at 2 o'clock on Monday afternoon.
Uh-huh. So this will be the same show next week.
Right.
If I'm taping it now, then I don't need to do it
Right.
Monday, right?
So you'll be 1 week ahead of the game.
By the way, regarding the vote for the convention center, I would like to ask you, are you aware that it's possible some of the yes voters may have been a little bit confused when they voted yes? Because the day before the election, I was watching the Channel 18 newscast, the 6 o'clock newscast, and the newscaster made a comment about how it was an election referendum that really didn't mean much of anything, kind of like an April Fool's joke, and made the comment that a yes vote means no, and that may not be the exact wording, but it's mighty darn close to what was actually said on Channel 18 News. So when someone says a yes vote means no, it's possible that some voters, or maybe a few, might have been confused into voting yes, thinking it meant no.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how many people noticed that apart from myself, but I thought you might be kind of interested in that.
Well, with such a lopsided vote there, I think maybe a few of them were confused, but the referendum itself read pretty easily. If you read through it a couple of times, you knew pretty simply. And the Stop people were running ads in the paper encouraging people to vote no for several weeks before the election, and they knew that if they let their guard down, that the opposition could maybe slip through and win that vote, and then they would have the piggy bank for the whole city to build it with. So
I didn't vote on it because it wasn't in my city election. I live in Altoona. But I have a bit of skepticism about a convention center in Eau Claire. I have a feeling that it wouldn't just be Eau Claire voters who would be paying for it in one way or another. I think that people throughout the county would end up paying, even if it just concerns an additional tax on foods and beverages that are sold in Eau Claire restaurants and bars. A lot of the customers at these establishments in Eau Claire are actually people who live in other parts of the county, such as living in Altoona. So even in a small measure like that, I think that the Altoona residents would end up helping to fund the convention center because one way or another, I think that we would be affected, that our taxes would, in one way or another, be higher, even if it's just a sales tax.
Yeah, there would be some kind of tax. They'd get you either maybe a tax at the door when you bought a ticket or something if you didn't live within the city limits.
Well,
Who knows?
Swimming pool, yeah, well.
I'm sure there would be some kind of special taxes placed on it there, but it's just not feasible living this close to the cities to try and build some big edifice here just to ingratiate some people's egos around this area when you can in 90 minutes you can be in the big city there, and you can go over there and enjoy all of the excesses of the big city.
True.
And then come back to our nice little hamlet here and feel safe and sound and don't have to worry about Marilyn Manson's and all the other things. And as you notice, the city keeps encroaching upon Eau Claire and kind of forcing it into more crime and things, but there's people resisting that too. And when you bring in something like a metropolitan type arena like that, it brings in the riffraff and the drugs and all the other stuff that comes with it. And hopefully we can kind of block some of that encroachment, and then from time to time if we want to go out there and check it out, we can always drive to the cities and engage in that frivolity over there.
True.
And still have our little hamlet back here, safe and sound. I think the less of some of that, the big city stuff we can keep out of this city here and still allow it to grow, the better off we'll be. So that's my point anyway. Well, we want to thank you for tuning in tonight and continue to watch. And don't forget to tell your friends. We appreciate your calling. Okay there, Freddie. You know, Leader Telegram said here, headline in the city page, Friday, April 4th. It said, "Our kids are worth it." School district residents looking closely at costs of proposed building plans. And this guy named Tim, I won't say his last name, but he's saying that sometimes we have to bite the bullet a little bit, but our kids are definitely worth it. Yeah, sure, $54.7 million, that's a pretty big bullet to bite.
Yes.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you guys about Marilyn Manson concert. I think those guys, you know, you're right. They're weirdos, you know, and I'm, you know, them hooligan kids out there, you know. Personally, I wouldn't want to see that guy in Eau Claire myself. Would you?
No.
I don't know what's so bad about them. What do they do that's so revolting?
Well, I thought you didn't enjoy him yourself. Sounds like you're starting to take side of the younger fellas.
I don't know what do they do that's so.
Well, the guy, I think he's stripped down, he's naked, he runs around out there like a freak. He's a weirdo. He's a weird Dutch. That's basically what I'm saying.
I remember a guy that did the same thing about 25 years ago from a band called The Doors. All they did was arrest him. Why can't they just go up there and arrest him?
Well, you know what they should do? They should beat him. We don't need that type of stuff in our nice little peaceful town.
Right.
You know? There you go, Fred.
Yes.
He agrees. What do you think about that?
So will you be the
I
one?
think it's terrible.
Thank you.
Are you and Fred going to lead the mob that goes to beat him then, or what?
I'm
No.
ready to go. You know, let's take care of it. Stop the crime in Eau Claire. We need to get it back to the way it was. That's how I feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have nothing to say about that, or? You're pretty talkative most of the time.
Well, I think we agree with him 100%, don't we?
All right.
All right, good. That's what I like to hear. I'm going to call in every time I get a chance to.
Okay, well, thanks for calling in and continue to watch the Old Cow Report. Fred, well, the woman was saying how she likes the set. You know, the Flavin Company many, many years ago started bottling this pop, and just recently they came out with their new colorful bottle and their new label
Yeah.
with the cow on it.
You know, that looks like a wine bottle.
Well, you know, that's why they call it Flavin Pop, Fred. But they haven't changed the jingle now for 30, 35 years.
They haven't, huh?
And, but this stuff is good, Fred.
It's good for nothing.
I know you can either drink it or you can put it in your gas tank.
Yeah, and if you put it in your gas tank, your car will blow up.
There's only three things that this has been known to be any good at. That's embalming fluid, for drinking, or for putting in your car when you run out of gas.
Yeah.
It works in all three cases.
Yeah.
And that's why they sell so much of it down there at
Yeah.
the corner of Menominee and
Yeah,
Cherry
and that
Street.
store isn't in business anymore.
Well, that's just a facade, Fred.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we better take another call here. We're running out of time. Have you got another article there you were going to say
Go ahead,
something about?
you go ahead.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, how's it going tonight?
All right.
You know, what was up with that guy that just called? I mean, I don't know, he kind of sounded like he had a silly little freak show going on at his place, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, you know, I mean, I don't listen to Marilyn Manson that much, and I mean, my personal view is I don't really care about their image, which is all it is. It's just an image. I don't like them personally just because I think they're musically untalented. But you know who I really hate even more than Marilyn Manson?
Ooh.
That's the people that complain about him, you know? I mean, all they are is a band. People that make biggest uproar about them coming to a city to do a concert is the people that live there. Marilyn Manson, they go there, they play, they're gone. They don't care. Oh, excuse me, they don't care.
Well, especially if they got $20,000 in their pocket or $30,000 when they leave town.
Oh, yeah, they're getting paid.
Maybe more like $50,000.
Yeah, but anyways, you know, I don't know, I don't understand what the fascination is these days. I mean, last decade it was Judas Priest and Ozzy Osbourne, you know. Now it's Marilyn Manson, you know, what's going on?
Well, you know, takes two to tango, and if they're there to play and nobody would come to see them, then they would
That ain't gonna happen.
they would quickly change their tune. But evidently somebody wants to watch that, so but we don't have to build a $50 million arena just so they can come here to Eau Claire and watch it, right?
Well, you see, you know, the way I look at it, you look at Eau Claire, I mean, look out on the North Crossing, you know, it looked like 10 years ago out by where Open Mall is. I mean, none of that stuff was here, you know? Now, you know, Eau Claire's turning into quite a booming metropolis, you know? I mean, sooner or later, you know, you're going to have a big old arena out there, you know? You guys just, no matter how much you people complain, you know, you just can't stop progress, you know? And it's coming to Eau Claire.
Before we allow that, Fred and I'll get there, out there and we'll set up roadblocks, Fred. We'll make sure none of that riffraff gets into town.
Yeah.
All right, Fred. Well, 3rd District Republican Party's having their convention, Fred. 3rd District Congressional District Caucus is being held on Saturday, April 12th at another taxpayers' boondoggle delight up there at the North Star Middle School. It's another one of them white elephants up on the north side there at 2711 Abbey Hill Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And I guess, Fred, this year they're going to elect the chairman and the vice chair. Is there any truth to the rumor that you're going to be running for chairman this year?
No, I'm not running for chairman.
You are a delegate, though, aren't you?
I'm a alternate.
Well, from what I understand, alternates and delegates have the same voting power at these. So make sure if you're a delegate or an alternate, you show up because your vote is equal to a delegate if you're an alternate, and if you're vice versa, they're both equal in strength. Now, some of the speakers are State Senator Dave Zien, Assemblyman Rob Krybeck, Tom Sikora, and Chuck Schaefer will be there. Also, Joe Chilson, La Crosse County Chairman, will be speaking on marketing your message. And let's see what else. Of course, then there's the election, and there might be an outside chance that the governor would show up, and if he does, they have to stop everything and allow him to speak because he's on a very tight schedule. So that's this Saturday, Fred.
Yes.
Up at and it starts at 9:30 to 10 o'clock, your registration. So make sure you're there before 10 to register because this group running this one might not let you get in there, Fred. You're not there on time to register. They read them credentials pretty close. And the 3rd District, of course, runs all the way from north of Rice Lake all the way down to the Illinois border, all the way along the western side of the state, all along the Mississippi, all the way down there, Fred. Way down to Boscoville and Platteville, way down in that area. La Crosse, big district, Fred. It's one of the biggest districts in the country. Of course, there's a few people running for chairman. One of them we both know, Fred, and his name's Chuck Stokey. He's mayor of, well, this is intriguing, Fred. He was the mayor of Barron from 66 to 68, and then he got down to Menominee and ended up being mayor there from 86 to the present. And he's got a long list of accomplishments, but he's also running now for 3rd District chairman. There could be some other people jump in the race. There's a woman named Cindy Lowry that's running for candidate for vice chairman. So that's interesting, Fred. So those of you out there that are delegates or alternates or just want to go up there and see what a real party, how they run their business, make sure you go up there on Saturday. I'm sure that if you just want to be a spectator, you can look in there and check it out. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Fred. Like how you guys are doing tonight.
Fine, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. I wanted to call about two things here.
All right.
First of all, with the Marilyn Manson thing playing in lacrosse, I guess the idea is if you don't like them, you don't have to listen to them.
Yeah, that's for sure. Somebody must like them.
Yeah, well, the thing is that people are calling in and complaining like, well, he's such a freak and all this other stuff. Well, who cares? Don't buy his tape. Huh?
Yeah, somebody's making them famous. Sure ain't me.
People that like them make them famous. The other people, well, you know, I personally really don't want to hear about it. You know, the second point I have to make is on the arena here. I guess my problem is that, hi, am I still on?
Yeah.
Hi. My problem is with the arenas. We voted on it. It's been shot down. Let's just end the subject and move on to things that we have to get done.
Yeah, like making passable streets, and I don't think we need to build any more schools. We built enough schools with the referendums we already passed, and now it's kind of like sharks that taste blood in the water. They got that referendum through, and there was a little bit of a tax decrease thanks to Senator Zine and Krybeck and those that voted for a tax reduction, and those sharks just went right after it. Now they want to grab $54 million to do more building. And they made promises that $27 million would take care of them for years to come. Well, that lasted about 3 or 4 years, and now they're right back wanting $54 million. Almost double, exactly double what the referendum was.
Well, see, the problem with that is, I don't know, I mean, I went to Memorial a few years back, and I think anybody that has gone or is going to Memorial or North knows that we do need extra schools here. And you've been, you know, no offense, but you've been out of the school system for quite some time. I think most people are going in there and have gone there realize that when you get classes of 35 kids or so, that is way too many in a class, and we do need to add on to school. I don't think complaining about putting tax dollars towards education is such a bad idea.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I just think $54 million is a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but we're also a big city.
I remember when I went to school, and some of our classes had 60 or more people in a class.
Yeah, but we're used to a school that
and they learned.
Yeah, Fred, when I was growing up, I went to a two-room schoolhouse over in Minnesota. In one room, we had grades 1 through 4, and the other room, we had grades 5 through 8.
Yes.
That wasn't that many years ago. Two-room schoolhouse.
Yes.
By the time I was in the second grade, we were helping teach the first graders.
And when was it that you went to school with?
Oh, just a few years back. But you know, Fred, when we were in second, third, fourth grade, we helped the first, second, and third graders. Fourth graders helped the third graders. The second graders helped the first graders. And and we all helped the teacher to teach. So we all ended up being teachers and students, Fred. There's quite a system there. Well, I think we have time for one more call on the old cow phone. Just one more call. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Okay, that's the last one, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right, guys. I guess I'm going to comment on the Marilyn Manson situation and the arena that you guys have been talking about so much. You know, it's funny. Your conservative viewpoints, it's obvious, you know, what you guys are all about. It's so funny that you want to suppress culture. You talk about how much it's going to cost. Well, what about the revenues from this place, and what about the advancement of culture? It's just so Midwestern. Also, you know, you're so afraid of change. Well, you know, you want to keep Eau Claire the way it is, and people are calling, reminiscing about how great Eau Claire used to be. What's so great about Eau Claire? What has ever been so great about it? It's just a small Midwestern town in the middle of nowhere, and things like this arena, you know, would be great. People could go to concerts. It would bring attractions to town. It'd make it more of a place.
Sure.
That's what we like about it.
I
It's just
don't-
a small Midwestern town in the middle of nowhere that nobody's discovered, and that's the way we want to keep it. And with that, Freddie boy, another edition of the Old Cow Report is in the can.
Yes.
And we want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you right here again next time. So And of course, we want to thank Roy Rogers Hoff, my rusty trusty engineer out there. And of course, we have some sad news. Chris and Cliff Economaki, the Siamese twins of engineering, have passed away. Of course, those of you who watched the show for the last 10 years remember them in the early days and the whole story about how they washed up on the shores of the Eau Claire River and all that stuff. But thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Adios, amigos and amiguettes. Good night.
Good night.